Or a midnight Tucker.
And also with us this evening, Mr. Daryl Taylor.
Hello, I'm Minus the Tiger.
You left Shiva in her cage.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta let him rest.
Gotcha. I totally understand. So, coming off of that amazing season opener we had, kind of a little bit of a different pace for this episode. It was directed by Greg Nicotero, written by Matthew Negrete. Before we jump into it, we want to cover a couple little pieces of news. We had a listener comment as well, and just some other little interesting things, and then we'll get into this episode. So, starting off with, we recorded kind of early, I guess, last week. We missed one listener didn't get a chance to have his thoughts, his Buster ratings actually put through on the show, and that is Sergio Mendoza. So, Aaron, would you be so kind, since Jim is not with us right now, to read Sergio's Buster ratings? We just didn't get a chance to get it on, and he'd love to get his thoughts across.
Sergio writes, 4 comic book and Die Hard fan teases out of 5. I honestly didn't know what rating to give it because I was somewhat in the middle. Was it too gruesome and gore gratuitous, or was it everything we expected Negan to be? The negatives first, I didn't like that they still kept teasing us for 20 minutes about who they were going to kill, even going so far as to show the rest of the gang getting splattered by Lucille. Then came the swerve, Abraham and Glenn both getting the axe, or should I say the bat. That was a good choice I didn't expect, especially after all the near deaths of Glenn last season. The hand chop was something only the diehards knew were going to get teased as well. I'm positive Negan made a literal impact on the scene carrying himself as king crap, and it was perfect. He made decisions that were warranted and justified, and that makes him even more menacing than any other villain. The lone Walker stumbling in the end made the point that there is no bigger threat than Negan in this world right now. Rick getting knocked off his high horse felt real and believable. Nobody had ever humbled him like this before, and in the end, he knew he was Negan's bitch. After all the carnage settled, I couldn't help but smile. We finally have a villain that we can all love to hate or hate to love.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We appreciate all of your Buster ratings, and we do record typically on the Monday after the episode airs, typically, depending on scheduling and all that. So, like today's Halloween, folks. So happy Halloween, everyone out there.
Which makes this a spooktacular episode of the Walking Dead TV podcast.
And actually, it's a memorable one too, because if we turn back the clock 6 years ago, years ago today was the premiere of The Walking Dead. It was October 31st, 2010. Yeah.
Wow.
So it changed everything. And
so fast.
I know.
Wow.
Amazing, right?
Yeah, I know.
So
you still need each episode by name, not by physical appearance.
Those
I
were the
joke
days.
around.
Those
I
were the
kid.
days.
So
6 years ago, you were still in like daycare, weren't you, Aaron? That was right. You were reviewing the Teletubbies and Barney the dinosaur.
That's why our cards always said most precocious.
So speaking about the season premiere, again, just real quick, we had some ratings come in. We did not have them solid with the +3s and all that, which means 3 days after it airs, people watching the DVRs. Now we finally do. It came in at 20.8 million viewers. And 13.2 of them were adults 18 to 49, that coveted, slot or whatever. However, it's still not the highest rated Walking Dead ever. The highest rated, and it remains cable record-breaking episode, was a season 5 premiere where they were in Terminus. And that had 22.3 million viewers. So I don't know if they were expecting to. They probably were expecting this one to blow it up, but still they were up there.
I mean, it's still an impressive number, but it of course, you can't really take 99.9% of comments on the internet serious. But so many people were like, "Oh, I'm done. I'm not watching." So I'm curious to see what the drop off is to this week's episode.
Interesting. So you want to see what the ratings are to see? Okay, now that you know who's dead, who really fell off when they said they were going to drop off the show, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Just continue to stop caring, following a buzzworthy episode.
Right. I'm just saying is because there's always hate out there on the internet. There's always that kind of talk. But I mean, there are people I know and I respect their opinions, and they're like, "I'm done and I'm out." So I'm just curious to see how much of a fall off we get from last week.
Because there was a lot of resentment over the whole thing of death.
And I've embraced it now. I'm with the whole thing with the episode, but the one thing that really still irritates me was that after giving us a summer of waiting, they gave us another 20 damn minutes of it too. I mean, that to me was a poor choice.
Yeah,
I get don't put it in the cold opening, but don't go 2 commercial breaks before you give us a reveal. That's just asking too much of your audience.
Well, they like to play games with us. They certainly did last season. I hope the producers heard the audience loud and clear. We don't need to have games played with us for you to kill characters. So everyone's kind of said their piece on this, and we'll see what happens. Like I said, it's a good point. Let's see how the ratings are for this next week's episode to see if it really dropped off or not. Usually it is, but
I don't need to go too far into my dissatisfaction with the season premiere again because I think it's pretty well known at this point. But it did pay off exactly what I thought it would by having a pretty astounding ratings high. I mean, even if it wasn't the best ever, it's still as high as you expect when you make a whole summer focused on building anticipation for an episode like this. So
Sure.
AMC did their job, regardless of the quality of the show that preceded it.
yeah, mission accomplished. Although I bet though secretly they were trying to top their top episode. They were trying to be like,
Oh,
sure.
for sure.
We always want to. I mean,
They were expecting something, but
they got close. They were within 1 million viewers.
but again,
so, yeah.
now that number you gave us, that includes the +3
Yes,
and +7.
yes,
Okay,
+3, not +7, +3. So which is the one that they really look at closer. That's the one that the advertisers look at, and that's the new like standard. The night of and then +3. That's the one that they look at. People really want to watch that show.
Yeah, but like hearing I've listened to other news podcasts and movie and TV podcasts talk about this, and other people that I know and other. It's just online and stuff, and it's a weird phenomenon with the show. It's like a love-hate relationship with the show that a lot of people have now, where they feel it's too gratuitous with the killing and the dark way that all of the people just the reaction of humanity to this world where it's. But when you look at it, you go, well, that's the point of the show. I mean, that was the point of the comic. I mean, it does dark things. You want to see what's going to happen. You kind of expect people to die. Like, I mean,
I don't think it changed all that much.
No, I don't think it has.
No.
I don't know if they do it differently.
But there's a reaction that you hear now, like that started with the show in the beginning to now, where it's like I think some people change, but the show hasn't. It's the same show it's always been.
Well, it's changed a little bit though, because last season they started playing with us, man. I mean, season 4 they ended up in that train part, right? You screwing with the wrong people. Like that was the big cliffhanger, if you will. Like, oh my god, what's going to happen? They're captured by this group of termites. You don't know what they're about yet. Then you go to the season 5 opener, and it's like just explosives, literally explosive.
But overall, I think after the first season, after the first showrunner changed, I think this is what we've been getting. Like when the child was Sophia was missing, when we had that whole thing.
Yeah.
There's always been that. Are they dead or are they not? Are they dead or are they not? Like that's kind of been the constant throughout.
That's the trope that they have part of the formula, and that's fine.
With the comic, it's always been that way. I mean,
Exactly. The thing is going back to the end of last season, and then the choices they made this season, story-wise, I disagree with almost none of the choices that they made. Again, story-wise, the way in which they presented it, edited it, gave it to us in both the cliffhanger that was kind of a poorly, I don't know, and then going into again, I'm going to mention it again, making us wait 20 more minutes with all this. I get they kind of wanted to disorient us because they wanted us inside Rick's head and experiencing that, but damn. Get to the point. And the problem was, I mentioned this last week, is they had 42 minutes to fill with something that really could have been done in 15, 20.
So let me ask a question: if the Glenn Dumpster thing never happened, would we be this angry?
I'm not angry.
I'm not angry.
Don't mistake.
I accept that's not a good episode. It's not a great episode of television.
I don't think as a whole. I think that was they did do that the Death Watch with that particular episode, and I think it did kind of turn some people off. That's what I think it did. I think it did turn some people off then, and then it's just kind of.
What gets me about that whole thing is that in between those Glenn episodes, I've got the Here's Not Here, which is one of the best episodes ever, which is the Morgan flashback episode. So it's like I don't know how much I could really be angry at the show for for all its little flaws or whatnot. I did get one of the best episodes of the series last season. So it's like but then it still dragged out the whole Glenn thing for like multiple weeks. So I don't know. It's
I think
a lot to wrote up the long form storytelling, which is why I actually really like this episode. It's like let's do something different for a change.
It's fascinating to watch the people's reactions to it. It's just something.
I think I said it last season, that after the whole Glenn Dumpster thing resolved, I felt that I was never angry about it. I actually didn't hate it at all, but I mentioned, and I still think it was, they were testing the audience to see what their reactions would be to losing Glenn. I think it was all done a little bit for the drama, but also just to kind of get us, just to see where the fan base's heads would be.
And you know where it is. It's, I hate that they did that to Glenn, but don't you touch my Daryl. Don't you do it. That's all I kept saying. That's all I kept saying. Don't you touch Daryl. So we'll see if they do anything with that.
Yeah. There's also been some questions about the geography, about where this group now is. We've seen in our Facebook group, like, there's some confusion out there. Like, okay, where's Alexandria versus Negan's territory versus the Kingdom? Like, and there's even some people still thinking, unfortunately, that they're in Georgia, but they're not. The whole crew migrated from Georgia in the story. They still filmed it in Georgia, but they migrated from Georgia sometime last season, and they made it up.
2 seasons ago now.
Well, actually, yeah. What was it? Because they met up with Aaron and all that. And
all of season 5 was or 6 was Alexandria.
You're 100% right. 100% right. The end of season 5. You're right. They migrated.
The back half of season 5 was, the whole when they had to look at the flowers and everybody was spread about, and then they wound up finding Aaron and Alexandria and all that.
Yeah, well, look at the flowers. Actually, that was before Terminus. Yeah, that was.
Terminus opened season 5. They were at Gabriel's church for like the first half with the whole hospital nonsense, and then they moved up.
Right, Green Bunch. Yeah, that's right. We were all out.
So the back half of season 5 when they moved, they're in the RV stuff. They all moved up.
They moved up, and then
because of the fake mission to go to DC.
Right, and then Morgan found the map. Right, in church. He says Rick Grimes on it, and okay, then they.
What matters is that they're no longer in Georgia. They're not in Carolinas either. They're in Virginia.
So
they're way north.
We can speculate. We can speculate, where they are. I mean,
I think part of the issue. Well, there's 2 issues. One is that they film in Georgia, and it seems very obvious that it's Georgia because we seem to have so much behind-the-scenes access to the show that it's hard to forget the fact that they're in Georgia no matter what, regardless of what the actual, within the world of the show is supposed to be. It still looks like Georgia. The other thing is that we just haven't gotten too much information yet regarding these various societies that we're now among. So we don't really know everything we need to know about the dynamics of where Alexandria is versus the Hilltop versus the Kingdom versus where the hell Negan is. I mean, you can kind of speculate right now. Some of us that read the comics have a better understanding where things are, but I think for the most part, we're kind of in a wait-and-see mode as far as really getting if you need to get the kind of nitty-gritty on which territory is where and how long it takes to get to what place.
Right, now we saw a city in this week's episode. Now, we didn't say exactly which city it was. It wasn't a huge city, but it was a city. It was not D.C., which means across the river. I don't think, because we didn't see any of the typical landmarks in D.C. It could have been a city like Arlington, Virginia, which is due northwest of Alexandria, maybe, a good 24-hour horseback ride, if you will, between Alexandria and Arlington. So, maybe that's the city that they were in, and that's the city that maybe is adjacent to the Kingdom. And perhaps Negan's territory is in between Alexandria and Arlington. I mean, we could speculate. They could be going the other way. Maybe they went south or to Springfield.
There's not much time passed since.
I just sent you a link to a Walking Dead Google map. Now, this is based on the comic book, but it has where Alexandria is in relation to everything else and all the different appearances.
This is a Google map. Let me see here. Okay, so this is a comic book one you're saying?
It's based off the comic, but still.
Well, the comic started like in Kentucky or something like that, didn't it? Like Rick wasn't from Georgia; he was from Kentucky or something.
Georgia.
No, not the comic book. Not the comic book.
Robert Kirkman is from Kentucky.
But if you read the comic, the first comic, he goes to Atlanta, but he starts out like in Kentucky or something like that.
You said that's where he woke up at?
Yes, correct. Yes,
okay.
yes. But he ended up in Atlanta on the he took his ride down there. Let me see.
Was a police officer in small town Cynthia, Kentucky. That's the comic.
Right, exactly right. Whereas in the show, it's King County, Georgia.
Yeah, the show is just straight Georgia.
Yeah.
This matters not at all. But
so where? Now, I'm looking at Alexandria. There's a lot of points over there. No, looks like the Navy Yard, but is this over here? That's where the scavengers. Okay. Let me see the other one. Who knows? Rescue Flare, Safe Zone. Okay, so it's all around the DC area. It looks like.
Yeah.
That's what we kind of know.
Right.
Those of us that are keeping up.
Oh, Lord,
specifically, the show is they're currently located up in the Virginia area outside of DC. Like that's the main thing. They didn't go. There was nothing to go to in DC, which is why they stopped. And then Alexandria happened, so they got a further way to go somewhere else. That's not specifically Washington DC, but yeah, they're very much several states above where they started the show.
It's all cute.
I'm sorry, if I'm in the middle of the zombie apocalypse and can go anywhere, and I'm near Washington DC, I'm going to go check out the White House. See, I mean, there's got to be no safer place in that area than the White House. It's probably got 15 levels below it or something.
Probably means there's no way to get into the White House.
Well, but I'm just saying.
Olympus has fallen.
Yeah.
So I hope that answered your questions. That was as clear as mud to us as far as the geography. But they're not in Georgia anymore, even though they do shoot there. And I hear what you're saying. It looks different. I guess it kind of does, but not really. I mean, it's still the South. You still have a lot of green. I mean, it doesn't look like they're saying they're in LA when they're in Vancouver. Let's put it that way. Like at least Georgia and Virginia. Okay, they you can buy that that's where they are right now based on the foliage and all that.
And they don't have that much gas, and they're still some of them are walking, and the others are just riding horses. I mean, they're not that far apart from each other.
Right.
To Fear the Walking Dead's credit, that second season didn't look like Vancouver at all.
Well, it wasn't. They were in Mexico. They actually shot it in Mexico. They moved.
That helps.
It looked like Mexico.
I don't watch Talking Fear, so I don't know. I was ready to look at that.
They shot the first season in Vancouver, and then the second one they went to. A lot of the second season was shot in that tank, which is also in Mexico. That water tank where they had a fake Abigail, and then they went down and they actually shot it in Rosarito. Where they're saying they are is actually where they shot it in a lot of places. So that's pretty cool. But getting back to The Walking Dead, we have an episode before us we need to get into. Again, it was called The Well, and just your initial thoughts on this week's show. We get to see the premiere of a long-awaited character, King Ezekiel. What do you guys think?
You know what? I didn't think I would like this episode as much as I did, but I really found myself enjoying Ezekiel and Carol's conversation, and that's basically what we got. I mean, it's a lot of their conversation, and I really enjoyed it. Like I really got into it.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find the last time I liked an episode of Walking Dead as much as this one, and it's going back a few episodes at this point. But I really enjoyed this episode quite a bit. I think King Ezekiel makes a tremendous presence on here, in addition to giving us a lot of focus on who I think are the best characters of the show, Morgan and Carol. But we'll get more into that. So.
Well, yeah, I'm in the same camp as Daryl. I had expectations that were lower, and this exceeded far beyond what I could have expected. There have been seminal moments from the comics that fans or me personally have waited for. When was Michonne going to appear? When are we going to see the prison? when is Lori going to die so we can stop listening to her whine about Carl? No, wait, no, not that one. Not that one. You know,
Carl.
You know, when are we going to get to Glenn and Maggie getting busy? All right, cool. You know, all these moments, you know, meeting Negan, all of that stuff. One of the ones I've really waited for and anticipated since he showed up in the comic was Ezekiel and Shiva. I've just been excited for that, and I really felt after last week they were going to screw the pooch and how they were going to set the tone for this week's episode, and it was going to be kind of a downer in a way. And no, it was completely uplifting. The fact that we get to see Ezekiel immediately call Carol out on her bullshit, but do it in such a way that was classy and just gentlemanly and just really, I don't know, I was blown away by Ezekiel. I love this episode.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, and the reason I'm not only because of the great acting, I think on his part. What's his name again? I'm sorry, Aaron.
Harry Payton.
Oh man, he's good. I like him a lot, and I love how they worked out that he's not really who he is. Kind of towards in this episode, they didn't stretch this out for 2 or 3 or 4 episodes. It's like you have a neat little package now.
That'd be too much for audiences to have to wait like multiple weeks to be like, oh, he's not really like Shakespearean all the time for no reason.
But I wouldn't put past the show though. Do something like that. Okay, I mean they've done stuff like that before, so it's like I'm glad that they gave us this neat little package. This episode was a neat little package showing you exactly what the kingdom is all about, what their flaws are, kind of who they are, and where it's going from here. So I liked it. Generally, like this episode quite a bit. So getting into it, we see the cold open. Carol is still wounded from her gunshot wounds from the Saviors, laying on a horse-drawn carriage. We hear Morgan's voice in the distance saying that it will be dark soon. One of the kingdom people is assuring Morgan that it's okay, we don't have that much farther to go. We also see Morgan kind of carving his hobo code, his little symbols, into marks into trees and mailbox posts along the way so he can mark his way back. And then Carol apparently blacks out because it's kind of a little transition here. And when she comes to, there's a big commotion. The horse-drawn carriage is turned over. We can see from her point of view that the horse is now being eaten by a group of hungry walkers, the one that was drawing the carriage. We can hear Morgan and the others fighting this horde of wasted zombies. However, Carol decides to run away on her own again. But before she runs, she has this little groggy, creepy vision where in her head the walkers were people again. I thought this was actually pretty cool, especially being Halloween. I'm like, this was actually pretty neat.
Well, and also we learned how they filmed it. It was pretty cool how they did that as well.
I didn't see that talking. So what did they?
They cast 8 sets of identical twins, and one was zombie and one was normal.
That's pretty clever.
Wow. I guess to save time, it makes sense to take a person out of makeup and have them shoot it both ways.
No, but that too. But I mean, that's a very clever way to film it. Because I kept wondering, like, are these walkers people I supposed to recognize? Like, I don't recognize any of these people. It's just the pre-Walker version of those characters. That's very pleased.
It's her mind.
And it's well shot. Like, it's very like I wrote romantically shot in here because it's like it's gruesome, but it's like the way it's filmed is there's a neat filter going on there. There's a lot of neat stuff to kind of capture the cinematic value of what Carol's saying.
Nick Terrence, he loves to pay homage to all these different genres.
Yeah.
When he's director, he's like he finally can do that now. He's having so much fun with this.
Also, there's a great zombie kill early too with one of the horseback guys like slices a walker's face and it feels like
great.
He's coming up right next. Yeah, exactly.
That was zombie kill of the week for sure.
So getting to that,
something though is Nicotero. I don't think anybody directs Melissa McBride as Carol better than he does. Her character seems to always shine the most when he's directing the episode where she's one of the centered characters.
They love working for him. I think the actors in general do. But
yeah. But I mean, but really quick before you go forward, because you mentioned about Morgan and his hobo markings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I understand. We talked about that back in season 5 and all that stuff. But
right.
I know what the red flag means in real life. But what was the whole thing with putting the mailbox flag up and then when at the end putting it down?
Well, I think
what was that supposed to symbol?
Symbolic, yeah.
I think for one thing, it's like here's the thing. But I think the idea is that Morgan, he's putting up his, he's putting up a signal just in case, I assume Rick or anyone that would mainly Rick he would pick up on that kind of clue. I think by putting the mailbox up, that also kind of be a further hint that like someone's been here recently to kind of get him to notice something like that. But I mean, as far as the symbolism goes, I mean, there's an occupied house, nobody's home, and Carol's like, oh, she's staying actually, and we can put the mailbox sign down now. Like it's just
okay. That's what I gleaned from it. But I was like, I think there's some deeper meaning that I'm missing here, but maybe not.
But yes, I think as far as a logistical thing, it's more to further get the attention of Rick in case he happens by this area.
Interesting. I think it's symbolic. You're right. There's a lot of different layers.
It's a mix of the thing.
Yes. Some of it is tactical and real. I think some of it is just symbolism.
I want to point out that The Grove, that's the episode of Lizzie and the Flowers with Carol, that was directed by Michael E. Strazamas.
Okay. Yes. Oh, I see what you're saying. So saying that the best work comes out of Nicotero. Okay, I get what you're saying there.
I think Elizabeth Bride is doing a terrific job, kind of regardless.
Well, absolutely.
So finally, she gets up and runs and makes it to it looks like a small house. In the window, we see a nice old woman gesturing to Carol to come in. It gets really creepy. Like, is this really an old woman telling Carol to come into the house? But again, it's kind of a foggy vision because the old woman then becomes a zombie in the window. And that was again a great little just transition. I just thought it was really neat. Then the cavalry arrives on horseback and makes mincemeat out of the remaining walkers. This is where you said that one of the ones on horseback with a spear or sword sliced the head in half of one of the walkers. Finally, Morgan disposes of the last walker approaching Carol, and he kind of gives a staff to the back of the head. And again, this is the third time Carol kind of fogs out again. She sees the zombie, but then it turns back into this human as it's falling toward the ground. So she's kind of still in and out of that foggy state.
What I like a lot about this whole opening is that with Carol, and I'm not alone in this, I know we've talked about this. I haven't been a big fan of what the writers were doing with her last season. Like, I get the idea of her being remorseful or not wanting to be a part of the same group because everything that she comes in contact with seems to die in some way, and they try to link that with like the kid with the cookies that died and all that. But like, I thought it was just handled very clumsily. And what I like about this opening is that it really kind of recontextualizes what Carol's going through. Like, it basically restarts her kind of her character's psyche. And I feel like I immediately got what it is that she's, what her problem is in this kind of opening scene of her seeing these visions and whatnot. And I thought it carried well to the rest of the episode where she really, she kind of speaks out about that as she's talking with Morgan and Ezekiel.
It did help that because the way they wrote Carol for the last season, the end of last season, it didn't make sense to me either. And it just, her constantly, wanting to run away, being adamant that she had to go away from the group. It just didn't, like, it was such a quick turn. And it does seem like in this season it kind of clarified a lot better where her head is. It's, I don't know, the kind of rapport that she had with Daryl at one time.
Yeah,
it's like she has it now with Ezekiel.
Morgan, yeah, and with Morgan
too. Yeah. But I think Ezekiel there's something different with the way that how they deal with each other than how Morgan is a little bit more cautious with Carol.
Well, I think what you're describing is, and we'll see this at the end, they both have to put on a face.
Yes.
And then they use that pomegranate as a symbolism for that, where it's like bitter on the outside but sweet on the inside. And they both have to put on an act for everyone else, but then this is who they really are. But if we talk about Carol retreating from the group for just a moment, she first tried this maneuver back when they were at the church, and she tried to sneak away that night.
Right.
And Daryl caught her. But then the Grady arc started because Daryl saw the car drive by with a cross on the back, so that goes her attempt. Daryl caught her and going to the Grady hospital and all that. So that was the first time she tried to leave. And then the second time she tried to leave, she left Alexandria fine. She left Toby, her little boyfriend back there. Okay, all right, fine. Well, what I didn't like, and I think this is what you're describing, Aaron, is like this fake panic attack thing she was going through with the heavy breathing and the and the crying and just that nonsense. Just that didn't fit Carol's character. I could see her wanting to escape and her being remorseful for the things that she's done, but that whole panic attacky thing, just I'm glad that didn't resurface in this episode.
Well,
I think
what
that's what you're describing. Yeah.
Well, that's part of it. But that part was more of like I feel like we were unsure if she was doing the panic attack thing to perform a ruse, which I think
I'm still not even sure. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I believe that to be the case, but it just felt the way it was handled just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It seemed like they were trying to do something and they weren't pulling it off the way they could have been doing it. If they had a stronger idea of exactly how to do it, I guess it didn't seem like it was coming together the right way that they envisioned.
So Carol is rebooted for the season, and I can take this. This is fine. She still wants to slip away, but she's still a warrior. And she, we cut to the next scene. We see Carol sleeping, which I don't know if you guys caught this. There was a lucky rabbit's foot. Is that Morgan's? That was his, right? On the nightstand next to her. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah. Well, I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, but it was mentioned in the Talking Dead, and then I saw it the second time I watched it.
But that's Morgan's, definitely Morgan, because he didn't give it to her or anything, right? It's definitely his still, right? Okay. So he has it hanging there on the nightstand next to her. She's bandaged up. And Morgan is sitting next to her in a chair next to the bed, staring intently. Finally, she awakens. We see outside the window a homemade wind chime made from a pasta strainer and like pairs of scissors. I don't know if you guys caught that. It was really weird. This odd kind of homemade wind chime out there. And she wakes up and she goes, "How long has I been asleep?" Morgan responds, 2 days, more or less. She asks where they are, and then we cut to the scene where she's now being pushed in a wheelchair outside. But it's kind of a long shot. It's a long, kind of far away shot. And we see that there are children attending a school class outside in some kind of gazebo or some kind of outdoor thing. Parents are nearby. There's gardens growing out of old truck tires and barrels, and it's a very healthy looking, great community. There's children, there's laughter, there's adults. And Morgan is now pushing Carol in a wheelchair. And he fills her in a bit as far as where they are. And he says, "We're now in a place that they call the Kingdom." And he says, "Look, they've been helping you, so I've been helping them." Carol wants to know if they know, who they are. And Morgan says, "Well, they know all they need to know, that she put down some people that were attacking her, and Morgan was looking for her and found her." And he's now bringing her to the leader of the group, who is called King Ezekiel.
the way Morgan does this leads to like the best laugh I've ever had in the show. Like just as he brings her into that room and they see the tiger, they see the king. Like it's just so like expertly done to like make basically a punchline out of a situation. I was just so proud of the show for going that route.
It was funny because Morgan even says he does his own thing. That was he goes, and he forgot to mention that Ezekiel has a tiger. The tiger then roars, and he goes, "Yeah, I forgot to mention he's got a tiger."
It's just his delivery of that line.
Kind of lead with,
because it's almost like he knows Carol. He knows her well enough to know like how the hell am I going to tell her this stuff?
Right. He was
without her just going, "This is all bull," bullshit. And he's just trying to tell her in a way. He's like, "I know, I get it. We're leaving." Like he made sure to tell her, "We have they have our weapons. I figured it was okay for them to do that since they're helping us. We will get them when we leave." Like he was letting it, everything to be. That's what I was talking about with him being kind of cautious to try to get her to not run away again.
Right.
Like trying to set it up in a way that was just, like everything's cool. We're not being trapped. No one's trying to keep us here. It's okay. We can leave and go back. It's all good. And that's and Ezekiel talked to her in a different way. And I like how they show both versions, but these two men still care about her.
And he's pushing her into some kind of auditorium. It seems to be like a
school,
theater, or theater, right? It's kind of like
I thought it was either a community theater or a school auditorium.
And we noticed the first of his many quotes that are on the wall. I made note of these as much as I could throughout the episode. The first one that we see as he's pushing her into the auditorium is, "Hope is the North Star. Let it guide you." Like it's these kind of profound quotes, but they're not really profound, but they kind of are. Like it's KE is little initials after King Ezekiel, right? And I love how the script is even like this very medieval, regal type of font that they use on the letters there. So we finally a commercial. After that, King Ezekiel welcomes them before him, telling Shiva, the tiger, to settle down, and that the fair maiden has gone through a myriad of trials. Again, speaking this very regal, borderline British, but not really, kind of way of speaking.
It's like a Downton Abbey tryout session,
community theater style, right? So and then Jerry, who's turning into one of my favorite characters actually, from the wing of the stage, is Ezekiel's henchman or lead henchman, tells
Jerome.
Yeah.
He's just missing the mirror.
Now, is he the same Jerry that we're always spoiling the plot?
No, this Jerry's
way cool.
Well, I really like that actor because I don't know if any of you watch *Halt and Catch Fire*, but he was one of the nerds on there last season. He was great on there too. He's a standout character actor.
I didn't catch his name, but he's actually really funny. He has a little comic relief to this.
Cooper Andrews. Cooper Andrews,
okay. And he tells he calls Shiva S, to shut up and chill it up. That's exactly what he said. Ezekiel then shakes his head and says that Jerry is a faithful steward, but his words often leave him pitch-kettled. Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Ezekiel continues that if Carol is a friend of Morgan, then she is welcome unto the realm, and asks if she is healed. He's pleased to see her up and about and welcomes her again to the kingdom. He then says, "You've been addressed by the king, but you remain silent. What do you think of the kingdom? What do you think of the king?" he asks. And
this whole thing is great because it's like we know what Carol's like. We know we can see the reaction on her face, and you can watch the acting of her trying to figure out how to handle the situation. And I love that. I thought that was really good.
It's amazing. And she slips into, and really, you actually, like you just said, you visually see her slip into the Sally Homemaker / casserole baking Carol that we saw from Alexandria.
Yeah, the mask is totally put on.
She went right back to that same character, saying that, "Oh my goodness, I'm speechless, and I'm amazed by your tiger or Sheba." She mispronounced it with
even more over the top than she was before.
Oh yeah, when she said, "I'd be speechless if I wasn't already talking."
That's what she said, right? Exactly.
Yeah, it was just she just went in.
She went into that's her comfort zone. That's her way to treat people, right? That's her character she uses, and just like King Ezekiel has his character. So Sheba, which she said incorrectly, Jerry corrected her saying it's Shiva with a V. And then she also said, "I don't know what's going on in the most wonderful way." King Ezekiel says they can enjoy the fruits of the kingdom as long as they contribute along the way. He says, "Drink from the well, but replenish the well." Again, some kind of like corny, somewhat profound quote going on there. She agrees and says it's all about the well, and Jerry adds, "Well said."
Right.
So the puns are flying here. Like you actually see King Ezekiel start shaking his head, and he's about to correct Jerry. He even says Jerry, but then he snaps his fingers and he says, "Jerry, bring over this bowl of fruit. I forgot what kind of good host I am. Bring over this." And talking about how wonderful the apples and nectarines, especially the pomegranates, are. They're all homegrown. Jerry leans over, puts the bowl in front of Carol's face, and says, "It's fruit time." I'm loving Jerry.
I will say about we're talking about Jerry. He's great. But Ezekiel, from reading the comics, I think we talked about this when Payne was cast. But for me, and I know a couple of you guys agree that the actor had seen at the time, we were concerned whether or not he was going to be kind of have the presence of Ezekiel that we know in the comics, because it seems like an older kind of person, right? Is that fair to say, guys?
Yes, very much so.
It's like a guy that if you cast an actor as him, you have more of almost like a James Earl Jones quality to him. Not him now, like 80s James Earl Jones, like that.
And that's what channeled. Well, there is. I'll throw in the one thing. The actor was on The Talking Dead. He was the best part of that episode anyway. Talking Dead. And he channeled his uncle, who was a security guard but he always spoke like in a Shakespearean type of way. Like he was a big guy, but he always wanted to appear, he always wanted to have that air of intelligence. And he said, we will talk right, and we will, he had that presence. He would stand up straight, and he would have that presence. And he said that every time he went into that character as he was talking about the character. So it was fun to even see him do that on the show. So
yeah, so as opposed to something like The Governor, where I never really warmed up to David Morrissey's take on The Governor, I really liked what Peyton brought to Ezekiel. A character I really like in the comics, and like just because of how bizarre, like, given everything else that goes on in this show, like it's such a hey, there's this guy that speaks this way now as a tiger. Like I thought that's gonna be a very tricky thing to really capture and make kind of work. But I thought he did a tremendous job of both, bringing both what I got from the comic and giving a layer of depth to this person within the span of 40 minutes. Like it's very impressive.
Yeah. The King then insists that Carol at least take a pomegranate because Carol's like, I don't want any fruit, whatever. Carol says that she always found them a bit too much trouble. Again, this is the symbolism around this pomegranate fruit. The King agrees. He says, but what a wonderful contradiction they are. It's a sweet fruit surrounded by bitter, but it's heaven for the effort. So he's trying to break down Carol a little bit there. He also says that if they enjoy music, we have a guitarist that'll bring tears to your eyes and a wonderful choir. And on the way out, she says, may I call you Your Majesty? And he says, yes. And she says, Your Majesty, thank you. It was a pleasure. So that was their first encounter with King Ezekiel on his throne. As soon as Morgan rolls Carol out, she leans over and she goes, "You're me, right?"
Right, ridiculous.
And Morgan agrees. Morgan's like, he's actually on her side. Like, yeah, it is a lot. She cuts him off. She says, the whole place is a damn circus. She goes, it's make believe, it's playtime. She said she'll wait until she's healed and then eventually she'll go and slip away like she planned. Morgan says he's not gonna let her go, and she challenges him again, saying, "What are you gonna do? You gonna tie me up like you did the wolf?" Making reference to the wolf that he kept alive in Alexandria, no doubt.
Who, by the way, that actor that played that lead wolf, he's killing it on Gotham right now. Like I'm not a huge fan of Gotham, but he's playing the Mad Hatter. And
Really?
He's doing a really good job.
Yes, I still love that.
He's excellent.
The Mad Hatter is not my favorite Batman villain, so it's like, well, he's really made this guy into a pretty legit threat. So good job on him.
And didn't the Penguin come from Walking Dead too? So we can let this
Yes. Yeah, Robert Taylor.
Yes.
He got killed in Terminus, and now he's nailed it as a Penguin.
whatever his name is, right? Yeah. So next scene, the gates open to a walled suburban town, and it's, at this shot right here reminded me very, very much of Woodbury. You saw like the kind of constructed wall around the suburban downtown area. You saw the school buses there. I mean, really, it really could have been just a different version of Woodbury. Two trucks leave in a hurry. We hear Morgan's voice asking where they're going. Obviously, he's in one of the trucks, and we see a shot of a bunch of wild pigs eating a walker on the streets of the city. King Ezekiel responds, "What was once captive to the farm now runs free in the city." We see a bunch of pigs being herded then by our group into a shed with a walker kind of tied up so the pigs can have some more dinner. Morgan asks why they're doing this, and Richard, which is one of the kingdom folks, responds, "I want their bellies full of rot."
Yeah.
So we don't know exactly what they're doing here with these pigs. He also has a good line, this guy Richard. He goes, man, you can shoot a machine gun off in the woods, nothing. You cough in the city and these walkers are all over you. I guess it's
I like Jerry, but Richard's my second favorite person in the kingdom right now.
They're pretty real guys. It's like I kind of like what they're saying.
The things they say, like, it's not much, but like the little details you get make me like this group way more than any of the Alexandrians, any more of the people at Woodbury, Hilltop. Like I don't know those people, but
they're not cut out. Like,
they're not. They feel like I have some kind of depth to what's going on here. It's like they finally found a way to like make a civilization feel lived in, which I haven't really gotten in the past on the other bases.
Yeah.
Plus, that character's name is Richard, and that's a really good name.
Oh, yeah, he's like a real dick for me, but I mean, he's a good guy.
A small herd of walkers start to approach our group. Richard then says, "Ben, you're up." So Ezekiel insists that Ben, who's a younger member of the group there, insists that he do what he was taught and use the machete. But Ben tries to go for one of the walkers and misses the head and gets the machete stuck in one of the shoulders of the walker. Ezekiel saves him, gets the walker down, tells Ben not to be troubled, it's okay. He took the walker to the ground and basically put it out of misery with his sword, the king's sword. Richard tells Morgan not to mention anything to the folks back home about anything that happened here today. On the way back to the trucks, though, Ben almost gets attacked again, but this time Morgan saves him with his staff. Ezekiel notices this, and then this is amazing. I had to quote this because this took me a while to write this review. He then addresses the walkers approaching the group, saying, "May we one day cease you from this curse, but we live on in your place, full, faithful, festive, and free." But Richard only has to add only halfway free.
Yeah.
So again, he's addressing not only the people around him, but he's addressing walkers that are coming out. He's really living this character, isn't he, King Ezekiel?
Right. But you know what else I like about this group is also that instead of the group in Alexandria who kind of just didn't think about the dangers outside, like he is training his people to exist and and fight out there. It's not like he's pretending that there are no walkers and there aren't dangerous things out there. So it's a different type of take.
Well, yeah, they're all, like you said, they're replenishing the well. So I mean, there's a level of understanding that there is a real threat out there, as opposed to Deanna, right?
Right.
Who's Deanna?
It's like for all the effort you put in to keep the Alexandrians relatively safe, there was a naivety to how things are actually going on in the real world, which led to their mostly their downfall.
Yeah.
Despite the fact you could argue that Rick is the reason that Alexandria had a downfall. But I mean, even if he wasn't there, something else could happen.
I mean, Negan would go to Alexandria eventually, right? I mean, just a matter of time.
Yeah. Although, I mean, if you want to really examine it, if Negan got up to Alexandria before Rick did, there probably would have been some intimidation, but there might not have been too much death because Negan, for all he is, for how horrible he is, the things he's doing are basically for your protection. Essentially, he just rules over them.
Oh, they could have been giving stuff up. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. They'd be giving up stuff right away, and they wouldn't be threatened, but there'd probably be a lot less death than what has actually happened. So it's really interesting thoughts you can take away as far as what Rick's good is actually doing for other people.
He destroyed Alexandria.
But this shows, but this shows how Alexandria would have eventually fallen to Negan, because at least this group is producing more for Negan's group. Therefore, they're kept alive, right?
What I can only hope is that Negan's presence in this series becomes explored, so you really see if he is, for all the bluster and whatnot, and I'm not condemning his actions, but how evil really is he?
I don't think he really is all that evil.
In the grand scheme of things, there's obviously there's posturing that results in horrible things that make him overall a horrible person. But as far as what his command does for people, it's like it's more like playing devil's advocate and trying to see what kind of good comes out of what Negan has to offer. But
I don't see him as evil per se. I see him more of a chaotic evil in a way. I mean, he definitely has the intimidation and whatnot, but I mean, when it comes right down to it, I believe that Negan's motivations are truthful and honest, and he really believes he's doing good. But he's also getting, satiating that sadistic side that he can now get away with because that's okay in this world.
Well, he set up a barter system pretty much. I mean,
it's just very one-sided.
It's
It's a shakedown. Yeah, he's the mob.
He's a mafia of
right. And
but in terms of like the person he is, he's a horrible person. But as far as what his rule is doing to people, there's a logistical idea there that I can get behind to a point compared to Rick's like stealth team actions that result in a lot more death than there probably needed to be.
Well, they came in and they just wiped some people out. I mean,
And that was so awesome back then. Oh,
Yeah.
if,
But
we
again,
only knew what was to come. But
again, I think it'll be interesting for the show if it actually chooses to go this route to really delve into what makes these people tick. I think that'll make it more interesting than just you're bad and you're good.
So Richard makes that little comment at the end of King Ezekiel's speech to the walkers that only halfway free. So there's a little hint there that maybe they are being extorted or something is going on out there, which we're going to find out later in the episode. Back in town, one of the trucks returns. Richard is taking the other truck somewhere else. Ezekiel asks how Morgan acquired his skills with the staff, and Morgan replies that very much as he has before, a cheesemaker, a friend. Ezekiel says he'd be proud to have Morgan stay, and that Ben needs some help. His path is not set. He needs the boy to live. That one day he'll become an important member of his court. Morgan reluctantly agrees to teach Ben the ways of the staff and how to get him better. And Ezekiel laughs and says the kingdom is once again favored by his presence. Again, this is real regal. You gotta love this guy though. He's great.
This is where we get the big choir montage scene.
This is exactly where it comes in. So the choir montage scene begins. We're in Carol's room and we see more letters, more quotes on the wall. And this one is "Drink from the well, replenish the well," which we've heard him say. And now it's actually on her wall, and she's glaring at it. She's kind of staring at that. She's stewing really as the choir sings in the background. We can also see through her window Morgan is training Ben in the use of the staff. They're in like a gazebo again, as Eastman had once trained him. Later, we see Carol wheeling herself around town, and she steals a knife and a chocolate bar that was laying around. Maybe some time passed again. The choir's still singing. Ben is getting really good with the staff after a while.
Well, he's getting better. He's not really good. He's learning.
He's taking to Morgan's tutelage. Let's put it that way. Carol is chatting with one of the laundry guys. This is really funny, and she's in ecstasy over the breakfast cobbler. And she's like, "Oh my goodness, I couldn't believe this is breakfast cobbler." And she starts to fake cry, and she asks if the guy can get her some tissues. And the laundry guy runs off to get her some tissues, and she steals some clothes that he was just folding and puts it under her little blanket in the wheelchair. So she's still in her.
The choir singing the choir, because at first I forgot that there was a choir that they mentioned earlier too. So I thought it was like, this is a random music choice. And going forward, it's like, this is a Bob Dylan song, but it's
Bob Dylan
material.
song, yes.
Yeah, so don't think twice, it's all right. But I was like, that's fun. Like that's fun. In the midst of watching Westworld, where they have like a lot of piano tunes playing old West versions of modern songs, I'm like, Walking Dead's got something too going on.
So Ben and Morgan finish the training, and Ben asks to borrow Morgan's book. He saw hanging out his little backpack there. Ezekiel approaches and tells the two to get ready. There is a matter of import needing to be tended to, and to bring his gun. So in an abandoned parking lot, we now see Ezekiel with the trucks, and he explains why they killed the swine far from the kingdom. The pigs that were there are now butchered and they're hanging from the back of the truck. And Ezekiel explains that we kill these things far from the kingdom so people cannot hear their squeals, and that this is a secret and it's a burden that he must carry.
And the walkers can't heal this.
All smart too.
Well, no, I think that, are you saying that they didn't want the walkers to heal? I thought he didn't want the village people to hear that they were dealing with pigs.
I believe it's both.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Both are good reason.
Yeah. So then a truck of saviors appears. We know that they're saviors just by their swagger and the pickup truck and these guys. Gavin is the leader. He joked that he thought they were going to be early, but Ezekiel replies that he will fulfill their obligations on time every time. And Gavin's impressed by that. He says, "Yes, we value your relationships." So they seem to have a lot of mutual respect. The saviors respect the kingdom for fulfilling their obligations, and the kingdom respects the saviors for knowing that if they don't, they're dead meat.
But there's an obvious kind of in comparison to the other saviors we've met, it's like the people that Daryl rocket launched to death.
The gang there.
There's a very clear this one leader in particular for the saviors. Like he seems to be very he seems to be very attentive to Ezekiel's style of phrase. It's not like he's not taken aback by this. And he treats like he treats them with respect, which is that can go a long way. Yeah, so I was interested.
Well, they're not all savages. They're not,
exactly, and that's why again it'll be interesting to see what kind of rule Negan imposes over these various communities as we learn more and more about his the saviors in general, because there's more ways to impress me by what Negan's capable of than just seeing him punch people with a bat every week. So I like that there's an intimidation here that's much different than the way he intimidated Brick in the gang.
I mean, didn't Negan try to convince the envoy from the hilltop to shoot Greg, the leader? So we've seen Negan take different stances to different people he's extorting, right?
Yeah.
So but they seem to have respect, like in this case, at least for the kingdom folks.
Yep.
Gavin walks to the back of the truck, counts the pigs, totaling 8, and he compliments Ezekiel. They look bigger than last time, and this is a good thing. And Richard replies, "We made sure they were well fed."
Yeah.
Richard, zombie guts.
That's why I wrote Richard awesome in my notes. You get exactly what it's like. Oh, that's why they're feeding him walker meat. That's such like a great backhanded kind of way to deal with a thing that they don't want to be a part of. It's like, okay, we'll give you the pigs.
We'll give you fat pigs. You want fat? I'll get nice and fat for you, suckers. Here you go, right? In the back of my head, I kept hearing Bob Stuckey, tainted meat. I kept hearing that. The female kingdom person, which she has a name. I didn't catch her name. It was even said in the episode, but I forgot her name. Anyway, she's carrying the bow and arrow. She leans over to Morgan, attempting to explain that these guys are from another group, and he cuts her off and says, "I know who they are." So he knows.
Diane.
It's Diane. Okay, I didn't note it earlier on when her name was said. Okay, thank you. And Morgan says, "I know who they are," so he knows exactly who these savior folks are. But now it brings us up to a very one of the highlights of our show, and the highlights of really this whole episode is Fear the Walking Dead: Passage, brought to you by Taco Bell. So if you guys are on the +3 into things and you fast forwarded your commercials, you missed something really, really special.
And it made me hungry for Taco Bell.
I rarely catch the show live, so I'm always fast forwarding. But I do stop and go back to be like, oh no, I'm missing Passage.
So when you see that skull, the Mexican skull thing, and you see the Taco Bell logo, you go, whoa, stop, gotta rewind it, right?
Last night was fun because I was watching it with my girlfriend. She was on the couch with me. She wasn't really paying attention, but I had to explain what Passage was, which meant I had to explain what Flight 462 was.
Wait a second. She doesn't know what Flight 462. She missed all that. She missed that fun. Come on, man, that was a great flight.
I had to explain how great it was. Recapping Flight 462.
Somehow I think her life is still better for now.
So in this episode, Aaron, can you get us up to speed? What exactly happened here?
Well, after last week's very thrilling premiere episode of Fear the Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead Passage for the Taco Bell. This week we follow that same woman that was watching the other person stabbing the walkers in the background in the hazmat suit. Now she's like, oh, I don't know what to do. She's like scrambling around, which on still what seems to be like some kind of tarmac or whatever, like a rescue area. And she moves around and she sees another person. She sees a person in a hazmat, and we think it's like, that's probably like the guy that was stabbing the other walkers, right? The hazmat, but it's not. It seems like it's a walker in a hazmat suit. And then before he has a chance to do anything, that person gets stabbed by some other random woman that comes out of nowhere. It's like, what? And then the woman's like, who are you? Whatever. And they're all confrontational. And she holds a knife up to her throat and everything. And it's like, it's basically like, are you one of them kind of question? He's like, no, I sprained my ankle. And she shows her the wounded ankle. And then she's like, okay, well you're on your own. And runs away. And then the woman's like, no, stop. And I think that's pretty much where we end up.
Right.
Let me just say. First off, hold on. One thing. Now listen.
Come on, get to it.
We're listening. Go ahead.
This was on its own compelling and just genius. But then to hear Aaron Newworth give his color commentary and play-by-play, it's almost like you're there. It was amazing. Aaron, hats off. Flowers your way. Brilliant.
It is brilliant.
I will say this about Fear the Walking Dead passage presented by Taco Bell. Despite while Flight 462 had a better gimmick as far as like there's zombies on an airplane, what do we do? This one seems to like get what it's trying to do faster because we're in the thick act.
And it's brought to you by Taco Bell.
And that's another thing. You're like, oh man, I'm really hungry. Well,
Go for a case right now.
Because like Flight 462 took its time. Like it took a while before you're like getting more than just shots of characters looking worried outside of an airplane window. Like now we're like right in the middle of things. So like I do appreciate that Fear the Walking Dead passage presented by Taco Bell is it seems like a little more on the game of like how to make you interested in watching a minute version of a short film than what Flight 462 merely toyed with last season.
And the acting isn't half bad. These two women were actually pretty okay. I was kind of okay with what they were doing. You don't know their whole situation yet, but like,
that was the same with the web series shorts when Nicotero was directing the web series. Like the acting got progressively better and they hired better actors. Like once you guys recognize from things as opposed to like just random people in the first web series, and it got better over time. So
that was episode 2. If you'd like to see episode 3, they actually released them a little bit early before the actual episode airs of The Walking Dead. But anyway, they're on AMC.com. You can check them out and get yourself some Taco Bell.
If I have to wait 20 minutes to see Glenn die, I can wait 45 minutes to see an episode of Fear the Walking Dead passage Taco Bell.
Now, I wonder if one of these characters is going to join the cast again. They didn't say that this time. They didn't throw that hint down, did they? Or maybe I missed it.
We'll just assume that one of the characters from Fear the Walking Dead passage Taco Bell will join much like they did for Fear the Walking Dead.
You know what's even more amazing about Fear the Walking Dead passage brought to you by Taco Bell is every time Aaron says Fear the Walking Dead passage brought to you by Taco Bell, he seems to be able to cut out less and less.
He's a syllable or two, yeah. It rolls off his tongue,
but somehow you still understand it. It's almost like it's 2 syllables in another language. It's amazing, absolutely amazing.
It's a children of Tama language, right? It's descriptive, yes.
Well, it's because you pick up my nuances. You understand what I'm saying.
Oh, most definitely.
So after that lovely little minute scene there, we go back to our show, The Walking Dead. And Aaron, thanks for covering that, by the way. And that's going to be.
I'll be happy to present every episode of Fear the Walking Dead.
And you will, believe me. So we get back to the parking lot. They begin to load the pigs into one of the saviors, into the trucks. And one of the saviors picks a fight with Richard. This guy tells him to smile more. He's being a little bit grumpy. They have a little bit of a scuffle. Ezekiel.
I think this is actually where Richard Dash awesome because it's like the guy's like picking a fight and he takes a swing and Richard's like "F you" and he ducks and punches him instead.
Well, it was, and actually I didn't exactly quote them word for word, but it's like he said we've been taking it easy on you. And I think Richard said, "You sure you don't have that backwards buster or something like that?" Like it was something along those lines, right? Yeah.
It was just like the wind-up punch to Richard's like no, and he ducks out of the way really simply.
Now this is also pretty important here too. If you noticed, all the Kingdom people drew their weapons and they were ready for battle. They had rifles. Even Jerry was there. You had the bow and arrow girl Denise. You had Morgan there pointing a gun at me. They looked like they could take down these saviors like nothing. Like they were ready to, and they probably could have. So that shows
they didn't show a reaction shot of the saviors, but that was interesting. Like, because we did in a later shot, it's more wide frame. You get to see that the saviors they did have their weapons drawn as well. Right. It shows to show that the Kingdom people they're ready to act if necessary, which is important.
Right. They had body armor on, a BMX bike body armor, whatever that was.
But the other important thing there is that Morgan drew his gun as well.
Yes.
And obviously that's gonna play on later in the episode. But I think that again, much like Carol and her kind of the awkward handling of her thing, while I wasn't as down on Morgan last season because Morgan's awesome, it was frustrating to have him deal with that wolf and have us like all watch him go through this motion of trying to impart his wisdom and frustratingly not kill anybody that really deserved to get killed in some way. Like so here you have like some chinks in the armor all of a sudden where it's like now he's drawing guns. Like the last time we saw Morgan, he was forced to shoot a guy. He was forced to shoot one of the saviors because there was just no other option.
That's what pushed him over the edge, I think, right? Isn't that what changed him? Yeah.
Exactly. And now it's like because you see him both draw the gun and then you get a shot of him looking at the gun, realizing he drew the gun. And like that's there's not a lot there, but that's a good little bit of character work right there in that little tiny scene.
So maybe he'll have a little bit more relaxed vision of his philosophy. Maybe he'll start to realize sometimes you really do have to kill people. Sometimes even as much as you don't want to. Even the Jedi have their code, right? But they kill people a lot. Sometimes you have to, right? It's like
when he had a discussion about the like the staff didn't save people. They didn't always save everybody.
Right. Yeah.
The gun did. So.
Well, I think that conversation was between him and Ezekiel. And Ezekiel said something. The staff couldn't have saved Carol, but the gun did, or something like that.
Right.
That's what it was. So Ezekiel then, during this fracas, this scuffle, he says, "Cease this," and instructs the men to lower their weapons, and they all comply. They're very well trained, as Kingdom folks. Then the punk savior then says, "Oh, free punches, huh?" And he starts to punch Richard across the face twice. Who does not fight back. He just takes the punches and gets knocked down to the ground. And Ezekiel pleads with Gavin, says, "Gavin, get your man under control, please. This is not how you do this."
But I like the way he did it because he could have done it in a way that the guy would have probably turned on all of them. But he went to the leader of that group, and they have a little rapport.
Right.
He said, "Get your man." But he said he didn't beg.
He didn't order him either. He said, in a nice way. Right.
He just said, "You know what? We let you got your hits for that. Now let it go." And he called his man back for it too. He did.
Yep.
If this was Rick, he'd have shot everybody by now. There'd be a horrible death next week.
Ezekiel knows how to not shame a person in leadership in a leadership position.
Right.
The last thing you want to do is embarrass them if you don't want an altercation. So he's a diplomat in one way, and also he knows how to think like a tactician in another way.
Right. Daryl, it's good to be the king.
He read those books. He knows.
So Gavin, though, doesn't leave without threatening a little threat on the way out, saying next week is produce week and that they better produce.
Yep.
No pun there. Yeah. Or Richard will be the one who gets it. It doesn't say Richard, but he kind of nods his way that there'll be one of you who's going to get it.
He said he'd be first. He did say he'd be first.
He'd be first. But he didn't say. I think he said this guy's name. He just kind of said he'll be first or something like that, right? Or nodded his way.
I kind of thought they either meant Richard, which maybe makes sense because they cut camera to Richard, or Shiva actually too. It's like he could have been fighting the tiger.
So Morgan questions Ezekiel on the way out, saying, "Is this why he wants him to stay? You want me to stay because I'm a warrior to help you fight these saviors?" And Ezekiel responds, "No. Quite the opposite, in fact. Whatever that means. I guess he's trying to. I don't know. Maybe he sees something in Morgan. But we see they're in the mess hall now. Morgan is eating with his friend. I guess what's his name? Ben. I guess right. Yeah. And we see another quote on the wall. I just jotted it down. I was trying to get as many as I could. The dead are alive, lest not the alive be dead. K.E. Another one of those King Ezekiel quotes.
Right.
Morgan and Ben have a conversation. He kind of likes Ben's son, and Morgan then brings food back to Carol's room, but we see that she has fled. Carol attempts to sneak out of the camp, as she usually does, but she stops for a moment to pick some apples. And at that point, King Ezekiel and Jerry are there to confront her. Like he almost knew she'd be coming that way.
Can we back up a bit?
Oh, sure, yeah.
The cafeteria scene. There's a lot of Morgan stuff there between Ben.
Go ahead.
That's a good conversation between them because this is where Morgan basically talks about how he can. He talks about his philosophy with Benjamin. Like he doesn't get completely into it. But he mentions sometimes you can change your mind. Like you actually get into that detail where like you kind of really hear Morgan basically thinking out loud about what he's been doing and maybe whether or not it's the right way to proceed given the environment around him, given the presence of these saviors, these take no prisoners type of characters and whatnot. There seems to be some further fleshing out of the way he can proceed in his life, despite thinking life is precious and whatnot. There's also a neat detail that the Negan deal is being kept quiet from most of the residents of the kingdom. Like that's it's not something that everyone knows about. They don't really know about the saviors. And I thought that was interesting. That Ezekiel is governing his people in a very particular way.
Yeah, that was some good dialogue there. You're absolutely right about that. I'm
And
just thinking
it's also movie night apparently also.
Yes.
That's handy to finish his dinner so good movie night.
I mean, this is a really great place to live, right? This is like the best qualities of Alexandria and Woodbury put together, right? Like this is the ideal kind of post-apocalyptic kind of community you can happen upon.
In comparison, yes, it seems like the best one.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen how Negan lives. Maybe his schools are better. His school district could be better fun. Who knows?
I'm
It's
guessing
less fracking,
not.
I believe, in Negan's area, but yeah, besides that.
Well, Negan said he's not growing a garden. I'm growing a garden. So King Ezekiel and Jerry confront Carol. She's on the way out. There's a lot of dialogue here. So if you guys want to jump in, please. I couldn't.
Well, first
type
off,
down all of
the
it.
most important part is that when Ezekiel and Carol need to talk, Ezekiel asks Jerry to kind of excuse give him some privacy, and
Right.
he's like, all right, I'll be over here. Just holler if you need me. I'll be in holler distance. Deuces. It raises his finger.
Deuces.
In the air.
I mean, it was sad to lose Abraham last week, but you know what? I'm kind of liking these one-liners we're getting from Jerry. It's a poor substitute, but I'll take it.
I hope there's Jerry's on the wall as well.
I know. Jerry's my man. That's my man.
Now
Deuces,
you mentioned that all the quotes had the KE, and I thought
Yes.
they did it first too, but my second time through, some of them looked like they had LE. Or
Just the script. I think it was just the scripty script.
Just the script,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it was the font.
because I was trying to figure out then is E his middle name, his last name, is L some mystery? What I don't know, because a couple of them it looked like an L.
Well, the actor said that this scene was the scene that he had to read in order to get the part. Like this is what they made him read first.
When he was in his normal voice,
Just
not,
for casting.
not in his King voice, right?
Well, he
So
probably
it's-
came up with the King voice to do it when he came in to do it because you got to be in that
Okay.
role. But he said that they had like 4 pages of dialogue that you have to read when you did it, and it was basically this scene with Carol because they wanted to get this right because I'm pretty sure that means we're going to get a lot of him and Carol as the series, the season progresses, and they want to know that he's going to be right, to be able to that chemistry.
This was definitely The Walking Dead in their history of introducing new tentpole characters, the best that they've done. The most rounded out of here's this new character and here's what he's all about from this side to that.
It's a different dynamic because I don't want to spoil anything with the comics, but it's not really a spoiler. But he deals with Michonne more in the comic.
I think we talked about it on the show.
It's a
before
switch.
that Carol's
Yeah.
not around the comics anymore. We talked
Right,
about
right.
Carol's
Jerry
all
still
dead.
is, right? So it's a switch. Yeah,
But it's a different dynamic because Michonne is so different, and like the way that he would talk to Michonne is so different than the way that he would talk to this version of Carol. So I'm just captivated by watching how he deals with her.
Because Carol's TV version has a lot in common with Michonne now, so which is why it's interesting. I can't really think of any Carol and Michonne sequence scenes actually on the series, but I mean you can see why because they're both very similar. Which is it's a problem that the show ran into having Abraham, Daryl, T-Dog, or not T-Dog,
Rest in peace, T-Dog.
not T-Dog, I forgot the name, Tyrese.
Tyrese.
Having somebody like alphas along Rick, it made it difficult to kind of balance who's Rick's number one man and next to him. But so you have some more kind of scenario here, but they've wisely figured out ways to separate. Where you have like Carol and Daryl together a lot for other episodes, kind of move them away from the other stuff going on. Now you have more Carol. Like there's some neat dynamic play here, which I think is being well handled as far as keeping these characters somewhat away from each other, so you can get new dynamics like you're mentioning here. Like it works out. We have Michonne now, she's with Rick and whatnot, so it's,
Right.
presents different options to go forward.
So there's a lot of dialogue here. I'll just go through my quick little summation I wrote down. The King tells Carol he admires her plan and her cover story, essentially, but he saw right through it, and he knows that she's putting on an act. He also admires. He
Right.
even said that. He used that exact quote. That's right.
He even said it in a way like he's never ever said that in his life. Like is that how don't bullshit as they say? Like he just said like it was a foreign.
He was saying it in his regal tongue, right? He didn't switch tongues yet. He was still talking that way.
Yeah.
So then he admires her for being able to dispose of the saviors. Carol just starts laughing at him, and she says, and he asks why. She goes, "Well, you're a joke, and that's what I do with jokes. I laugh at jokes." And at that moment, Ezekiel finally lets go.
It was almost watching that scene, which was so exciting for me because I love when actors are really going at it.
Mhm.
You can see them slowly take their mask off.
Right.
Like they're slowly doing it.
So
Like
when she sat down
little
finally,
piece
and
at a time. Little piece. When he looks at Carol, and his eyes change when he looks at Carol, and he's like, "I see you. I know. I know that this was all an act." And then slowly, Carol kind of slumps a little bit, and she's like, "All right, okay, all right, we're gonna do this. Let's do this. Let's talk about this."
So-
and then she slowly, comes out of her mask, and he does the same thing. And eventually, they basically take off the wigs, everything. Just everything comes flying off, and it's just them bare sitting on that bench together. And I love getting from that point to that point. From them, being so guarded with each other to getting down to that point.
This was very satisfying. I said this at the beginning of the episode because they wrapped this up now, not 3 episodes from now, not 6 episodes from now.
Yeah.
He finally just has a heart-to-heart with this woman right now, and it makes me wonder too: how many people really know his real story in that camp? Is she the only one? Like, is she?
I
the
would
only
be
one
surprised
she's
if she
chosen?
is.
Yeah.
I would say maybe some of the there might be some people some of the people in the kingdom might not they might just not be kidding themselves to thinking that this is a real thing, but they're willing to accept it because it promotes the idea of safety.
They don't want to know. I think a lot
exactly.
they know but don't want to know.
Yeah, they're like hostages. They stick their heads in the ground. Like, all right, like I'll buy into this because it's working, like that kind of thing. But I wouldn't imagine too many of them are doing that. I think most of them just kind of think, all right, that's a working guy, but he's leaving us, right? So,
Right. So we'll take it.
Like,
He ain't no governor. He ain't no one governor.
like Jerry probably buys it, but like Richard probably doesn't, but he's willing to go along with it. That's
Right.
like my thought.
I think Jerry would be broken if he realized that he wasn't the king. Like
Jerry still thinks there's a tooth fairy. Let's go with that.
so Ezekiel drops his regal accent. He explains how he faked it till he made it. That the group needed a leader. He explains that in the beginning of the apocalypse, he was a zookeeper. He tended to Shiva once when she was mortally wounded, and that the tiger then showed preference for him. Long story short, he took the tiger. They were both starving in the zoo. Took him out. They started wandering together. It's not practical keeping a tiger. It's just he eats as much as 10 people. But explains how the stories within the mythos of the king was created by him just having that tiger. So because of that, coupled with his, he used to act in community theater. He said he played a few kings in his day. What do you say? Martin Luther was one of them too. I don't know. He's a Caesar and yeah. But his name really is Ezekiel. He said that really is my name, 100%. That's me. He apologizes to Carol too for all that she's been through because she's still getting upset. She still wants to leave. He tries to explain the virtues of life. Life is life. Life is good. You don't have to run. And I did quote this line. He says, "I found a way to deal with the bad by going a little overboard with the good." Like I guess that was cool. I think that pretty much sums up the kingdom, right? Everything is cheery and happy, and
especially for them. That's a lot of why I like this episode. I mean, because the show itself is, I talked about this many times before, but there's a nihilistic streak to the show. I mean, it very much tries to both give you a sense that Rick really wants to hope for a sense of hope, but every week kind of browbeats him down into remembering that people die and everything's terrible because zombies are all over the place. And this is an episode, regardless of where things go from here, and you obviously know things are always going to get darker before they get better, especially when Negan's running around and Rick's involved going to make things worse. But this is an episode where it's like I can take this Walking Dead episode that gives me just something something fun and something inspiring in a way in the midst of all this darkness. It helps that I get 3 main characters that are all really compelling this week with Morgan, Carol, and Ezekiel. But it's a nice refreshing break from being crushed weekly on this series that wants to dwell in the darkness so often. Like you don't get that very often.
it just makes his character very three-dimensional. I think for me, and I like it. But and then he finally says, "Look, maybe we can find a way for you to go, but not really go at the same time." She looks at him like she's crazy. She says, "You think I'm crazy, right? Okay, let me prove you wrong. I'll have somebody meet you at the gate that you can trust. That will take you somewhere where we can do this." So we then see Morgan meet Carol at the gate. They have a little, I guess there's not much dialogue between them. I guess they're on horseback. Is there? There's more just looks. A lot of looks. A lot of.
Right.
I mean, there was some dialogue there. I kind of didn't really know too much of it. And
It's nothing that we haven't really got already in this episode.
okay, so then finally she moves into the house we first saw with that lady that was waving through the window and the one where Morgan raised the red flag on the mailbox. That's her house now. So that she's kind of on the outskirts of the kingdom, but she's not really with the kingdom, but she's living just a little bit outside the kingdom. She goes in the house, takes down the old lady Walker, buries her in the backyard, starts to set a fire in the house in the fireplace, settles in nicely, and then we hear a knock at the back door. And then after the knock, we hear a tiger's growl.
Yes.
So I guess we know who it is. And Ezekiel is out there smiling ear to ear, giving her a pomegranate, saying, you know, you really got to try one of these.
Now, to me,
Yeah.
that is him hitting on her easily,
Oh,
right?
Oh yeah.
Obviously, for sure.
Come on, Richard. Brown chicken, brown cow has to go.
Oh yeah.
Like,
They got the fever. They got that jungle fever.
But he came correct though with it. Like he could. I don't think too many women would be able to turn that down. Like just the way that he came in, and because he was just so opening and with a freaking tiger and didn't feel threatening. Like he's holding a tiger, a leash of a tiger, and a pomegranate, and he looks like the most romantic dude. That's the one you don't want around when your wife or your girlfriend is there, because you start getting hit. Like you don't act like that when we go out. Tiger girl, stop hitting me.
What works though is that it's earned. Like you got a whole scene of these characters, interacting with each other and speaking, their minds and having an exact understanding of who each other is. Like I really like that. I thought it was just really. It was a great cap to the episode because it's like I get who these people are.
Like it was a cat and mouse type of thing. Like he really played it like he looked
Literally cat and mouse.
Calm it down.
Literally, it was
But he
great.
really played it like he really saw her and he was interested in her. Like it was like the first time in a long time that he really was that excited by another person. Like
You hear the music coming? Is that it?
I know it's coming. I know it's
Now, I guess I wonder. That's why I asked that question. Maybe she's the only one throughout all his followers and all the people around that he's actually let into his real character, and that's maybe why. Yeah, that's.
Well, I think that has to be just refreshing that he can do that.
Yeah.
Like, he can do that, and he can find someone that has an emotional state that he can connect with in some way. And so I mean, that's a good part, regardless if he's let his guard down or not before. I think it's a person that gets it. Like they both get it. They understand what they're doing.
right. They're like kindred spirits in a way. Like they're
Exactly.
both lonely. They've both been through that. Through a lot of pain and loss, and they both hold on. They both hold on tightly to their mask to get through the day. But it feels good to actually be able to like come home and just be able to take that off in front of somebody and and just feel comfortable enough to do that and not be so worried about the reaction they would have. He doesn't need to be the leader around her. He doesn't need to make her feel safe.
Well, no, I mean when you're in leadership like that, I mean you have your public face and you have your private face. You have what you have out there, and then so yeah.
I think strength is what he sees in her. Like she's just as strong
for
as
sure,
she is. So
for sure.
he doesn't. So he feels like she would be fine on her own, but he doesn't want her to be on her. But he knows if she really wanted to be on her own, she'd be strong enough to do it. But it's nice, man. It's good to see.
I think
I'll leave it, yeah.
At it.
Yeah, I think outside of Carl, she is probably the most out of all the characters that are still around. She's the most equipped to be by herself. Outside of Carl, I think Carl is becoming a secret badass.
Right.
Yeah, I hope things unfold with his character.
Well, Carol's been through the gauntlet. Like she's been through the most abusive relationship. She's been through that years of abuse, and then she's been through, learning to be, to survive.
I'm pretty sure Daryl and Michonne and Morgan can handle themselves just fine.
Oh yeah.
No, I agree. I'm just saying that out of all those characters, she's the one that I would not worry about on her own at all. At all.
But it's interesting. You mentioned Daryl Michonne. Michonne had a choice to be on her own when the prison fell. She chose to retrace the steps and find civilization
She
again.
doesn't run. She doesn't run away. Carol's the one that runs away.
Right. Yeah. Even Daryl. I mean, he was with his brother, and then it's like they chose to come back to the prison.
Right.
So I think they're at a point now where they technically probably could survive on their own, but they don't want to. They like being in a group now. And you're right. Carol's always trying to slip away.
Morgan did survive on his own.
Right. He certainly
That's
did.
true.
He had the cheesemaker. Come on, don't discredit the cheesemaker.
Morgan was clearing for a while.
A long time. He walked his way to Virginia from Georgia. Okay.
Morgan went crazy and came back from being crazy. So
Without therapy.
Without therapy.
His therapy was the
Zodiac.
Jeez.
He had the Zodiac killer help.
Right.
Zodiac killer.
Even in his craziness, he still survived though. Like even at his most crazy moment, he still survived all that.
Which seems to further emphasize why it was a disappointment to see that Carol Morgan slap fight in the last season.
Right. Yeah, I think it was over the top, but yeah. So before we get to our official Buster ratings, we have to, and we always love to, turn it over for a few words to our lovely sponsor, DCB Service. So, Daryl Taylor, we do the honors this week and talk about DCB Service, please.
I'm glad I was actually prepared this time.
Good.
Well, if you like comics, and we all like comics, and not only comics, because I found something that I think with the last episode, the previous episode, people would dig to order from DCBS. You can go to their website, and you can order all their comics are. They have a percentage off. It's usually 20 to 30% off, sometimes half.
And Daryl, what is that website?
That website is dcbsservice.com. And part of the trades that you can get, if you put in Walking Dead, if you have not read the comics and you want to, just put in the search Walking Dead, and a whole bunch of trades come out. I mean, these are trades where they're 12 issues for only $22. Some are and then individual trades that are 6 issues for $8. Some of them for $8. You can also get a Negan Lucille T-shirt for $12. It's a cool T-shirt. It has a skull in the middle and it has Negan written on top and it has Lucille at the bottom.
It's nicer than that one they're hawking on the Walking Dead store. It's much nicer.
Yeah, it's much nicer. And it has the bats. It has the bats as the crossbones for the skull. So it is amazing. Cool. You can get that. Who thought you can even get that at DCBS? But certainly go there and check it out and look up all that stuff and order whatever books you want to order. They will ship it to your house any way you want it. You can get it monthly, twice a month, or weekly. It's up to you how you want it sent.
And it's not just the comics either, man. Like, if you like the different statues and stuff, and not just Walking Dead, but I mean the comic characters and all that, their statues are always like around 35% off or something like that. And like just now, if you look at the bottom, for me, I've already put it into my cart right now, and that is the $130 Supergirl, the Melissa Benoist Supergirl statue is $88 on here. That is a hell of a deal. And I mean, that's the kind of savings you get with DCBService.com.
Thank you, guys. It's great. And they make it possible for us to bring you the Walking Dead TV podcast and Fear the Walking Dead TV podcast if you're so inclined. So definitely check that out and give them at least first shot at your business because it'll probably be the best price you can get on all your comic book needs. Thanks, guys. So let's get to our Buster ratings. Aaron, we already wrote your review and you posted it on our site, but we need to quantify that review. If you can sum it up into a 1 to 5 or 0 to 5 Buster rating, what would that be?
I was thinking about this, and I was going to say 4.5, but I was like, well, what am I marking this down for? And I don't know what the answer to that was, so I'm going to give this 5 busters. Like, I haven't given it 5 busters in a while, but I feel like this episode does exactly what I wanted an episode of The Walking Dead to do. It has some Walker action, but it has a lot of well-written character scenes. And for a show that I criticized for its writing quality very often, I wasn't nonplussed by what was going on here. I thought it did a great job of establishing both the Ezekiel character and reestablishing Morgan and Carol's character, in addition to providing us a whole new society to deal with. And it doesn't feel overstuffed. It feels like I got everything I needed at a proper pace. It gave me more of the Negan threat in the background. So, it's still committed to the larger story, but it gave us just this nice little, kind of side episode that lets us deal with certain characters as well as expand the universe of the series as a whole in a way that just never felt like it was going underdone in any way. Like, I just felt like it's completely nailed what I'd expect out of a terrific episode of The Walking Dead. So I've got 5 busters, guys.
Wow, that's it. Richard.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you said that, Aaron, is because I was thinking 5, and then I was like, it's got to be something really good to give it 5. So I was going to give it 4, 4.5, something like that. But you make a good point. What is there to knock down on it? There's nothing. To me, I have to give it 5 as well. It was a really, really good episode, and like I said earlier, the introduction of Ezekiel was probably my favorite introduction of any character that I've been expecting from the comics. So, 5 busters easily.
Great, Daryl.
I would have to give it 4 out of 5 busters. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very strong episode. I can understand, though, the people not digging it after the craziness that we got from the opening and going to this is a sharp contrast to that. But still, like, the character moments were so strong and important for what's going to come throughout the season. So I really dug it. It definitely gets a 4 out of 5 for me.
I'm going to do 4.5, and I'll tell you exactly why. I think that there's nothing wrong. It was a very satisfying episode. Very satisfying. The only thing it lacked is, like, for me to have a really amazing episode of The Walking Dead, like something I want to talk about around the water cooler at work, or, hey, remember the scene where they did this? Didn't have those kind of scenes in it. It was like, all right, it was a nice, neat little package, introduced us to this world. If it had just a little bit more over-the-top stuff, maybe it would have been a 5. Again,
it has a tiger.
I was about to say, there's a guy who was a zookeeper in a high school auditorium with a tiger, declared himself king.
Okay, did the tiger eat anybody's head off or do something? I'm sorry, I'm a little bit more gratuitous. I like a little bit more of the violence, okay? Did it eat some zombies? I mean, something, anything. Again,
I get what you're saying.
Not hating.
It had
Not
pigs
hating.
eating zombies.
Again, like a 5 to me would be the episode in the Terminus, where Rick is taking AK-47 and mowing down termites. That's a 5,
yeah,
okay?
pretty much that, yeah.
I could call my friends and say, hey, did you watch that? Did you see that scene where you ripped? I mean, this is cool. It's a nice, neat little package. 4.5. I'm not hating any of it. I just need a little bit more of the action. Again, very tight, neat episode. And I give it a lot of credit for also wrapping up that who he really is and not stretching that out. So kudos. That's a strong one for me. All right. So. Who cares what we have to think, though? We have an amazing, amazing Facebook group. If you're not a part of it, go to facebook.com right now, do a search for The Walking Dead TV Podcast, hit Join Group, the little button, hit Join Group, boom, we get you in quickly, and you can leave your very own Buster ratings. If it's The Walking Dead, if it's Fear the Walking Dead, we call them Toby ratings. Either way, we read them on the show. Usually Jim does it when he's with us today, he couldn't be with us, however, we will just alternate and kind of go through all of our lovely listeners' thoughts on what they had to say about the episode. So starting with Aaron, what did our first listener have to say?
Our first review is from Brent Jones. He writes 3-0, so that's Jerry out of 5. Hashtag sorry, Jerry. I was incredibly worried that I wouldn't be able to deal with the Ezekiel guy, but his talk with Carol, who was the perfect person to have for this introduction, was a big relief. Carol made me laugh several times. I'm so glad she called this bullshit, and I'm relieved he admitted it was goofy. Am I the only one who wonders about the distances between all these different places, which we talked about earlier on?
Exactly. And I think what Brent was saying, that's Jerry. We make reference to a fictitious, somewhat fictitious person called Jerry that doesn't like spoilers on our show, right?
But for whatever reason, listens to the podcast anyway.
I think there really was a Jerry, maybe 180 episodes ago or whatever. But either way,
no, Jordan made up Jerry.
Oh, Jordan made up. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
So it's not that Jerry, but we love Jerry. So all right, go ahead, Richard.
All right, Tammy Heisley says, I like Morgan and Carol, and the kingdom was very interesting, but not enough to carry an episode alone. That's why I give this week a 3. P.S. I love the backstory for King Ezekiel.
All right, DeRay Irvin, she says 4 Miladies out of 5. I was glad to have this less stressful episode after last week's bloodbath. I also love that they feed walkers to the saviors pigs. It's very fitting. King Ezekiel is amazing, but I believe Jerry may be the new fan favorite.
I think DeRay's onto something right there.
Yeah.
Mike Jones had to say 4 Tiger Tales out of 5. Love the kingdom and King Ezekiel. Perfect to the comic. 1 for Carol's story. At this point, just let her go and never be heard from again. So he's tired of her. Just keep trying to escape there.
Susan writes 3.5. Is this the real life video starring Carol on painkillers at 5? She had to be thinking she was in a drug-induced haze, wind chimes, hot whatever meal, and a tiger. Insanity.
Joey Stower says 4 out of Carol going to get tiger styled out of 5. Come on, guys. Carol and Ezekiel are going to for sure hook up. Very happy with the bench scene that he's basically said the way he talks is for shining himself up like a king, and he's really not like that. My wife was like, he talks weird. Another solid setup episode for future plot. Love the walkers getting fed to the pigs for the saviors. That's like spitting in someone's food at a restaurant, right, Jim? And damn, the kingdom looks huge. Looking forward to the podcast and next episode.
And we delivered.
Max Sofer, 4 tainted pork chops out of 5. I don't know if y'all heard, but my boy Ezekiel has a tiger. I've been waiting years for this. I was not disappointed. I'm glad Carol's who he comes clean to. It fits the show better. She's our cold skeptic.
Tan Buono, 3 out of 5. King Ezekiel hitting on Carol. When he says, you ought to try the pomegranate, he really meant you ought to pet my snake. Tiger.
Mary writes, I'm going with 5 deuces for this one. A little high, I know, but I needed this episode to ease the burden from the premiere and it delivered. Been waiting for Ezekiel for a long time and it didn't disappoint. I was riveted to all of his scenes and the tiger was better than I thought she'd be. Did you all catch the nuances too with the file cabinet and the tire planters? Had it my favorite. I like that this episode brought in something new, but also put the rest of angst between Morgan and Carol, who in my opinion are the most interesting of characters despite their tangents last season. Also great that they didn't leave us hanging about Ezekiel's role as the king. The scene between him and Carol on the bench was one among my favorites. And how can we not like Richard and Jerry?
Exactly. Here.
Right.
You can't.
Darren Appel, 5 community theater productions of The Bard out of 5. So many enjoyable new characters introduced. Jerry's my new favorite right-hand man. Well, he just is.
All right, Carl Hooker, 4 red flags out of 5. King Ezekiel was instantly eerie and likable at the same time. Great casting on that part. Did you all notice the quote decals in every room of the kingdom initialed with KE? That was a nice subtle touch. I also like them feeding zombie-filled pigs to the saviors. I would so totally eat zombie bacon. Jim needs to make a recipe.
I keep telling Jim we got to make the Walking Dead cookbook. I keep telling him. All right, now we got to just do it. I'll pin him down. Start writing.
WDTV, as heard on the WDTV podcast.
Exactly, the official one. Michelle Yvette Peoples, 4 deuces out of 5. Love the episode. Had the right mix of levity and seriousness. The post-apocalyptic Renaissance fair vibe was fun and a bit over the top, but served the purpose. And I would happily stay at the kingdom and hang out with Jerry, Shiva, and Ezekiel. Carrie Payton, is that how you pronounce his name? Is it Carrie? Yeah, okay. Carrie Payton was great as Ezekiel, and the conversation with him and Carol was great. The way he approached and dealt with Carol was perfect. Ezekiel had her figured out from the start and knew how to deal with her. He was honest with her about what he was doing with the kingdom. Love the tainted meat call back with the pigs. Morgan's reveal about the doubts he has and the struggles with his chosen path was welcome. The only thing I'm getting a bit tired of is the Carol's going to bolt. It's a bit tedious at this stage. Here.
I mean, we put that to rest now, though. She's in the house, so she's done.
Yeah.
But it's like, even to the very end, she's still trying to leave. She's like, enough already. Stop trying to leave, Carol.
Well,
Stay
well,
put.
now, that the,
Yeah.
now that the writers gave her a good monologue that she could have and talk about something with another character, like, yeah, now we can be settled with that. Janet writes 3.5 Walker stuffed pigs. The trick with feeding the pigs Walker to make them fat for the Saviors was brilliant. It really like the King Ezekiel and Shiva, as well as some of the other Kingdom fighters and pig wranglers. Overall, even though there were some awesome moments, the hunger and made me think of Hades' Persephone story. Good call. The story felt just too slow. I understand why they wanted to tone down the intensity after last week's episode, but this episode just felt like they toned it down too far.
I mean, we've had lots slower Alexandria episodes, right?
We have.
I'm not saying Johnny way off. Just like I remember walking on the train tracks for the whole episode. It's like they at least did a lot in that.
Well, I do understand though, that feeling, that jarring sense of, there was so much that went on. There was just everybody left in such a terrible state, and then you jump to this episode. It's just so different.
Yeah.
So I knew going in. I knew after I watched it that I said there are going to be people that I didn't think I would like it as much as I did.
Right.
Because I get it.
All right. So, Chris Pierce, after last week's episode, I could really get on board with the lighthearted pace. It almost felt like a Monty Python sketch parodying The Walking Dead.
He wrote a sketch out here, didn't he?
King Ezekiel, go and tell your master that we have been charged by God with a sacred quest. If he will give us food and shelter for the night, he can join us in our quest for the Holy Grail. Negan Soldier, well, I'll ask him, but I don't think he'd be very keen. He's already got one, you see. King Ezekiel, what? Sir Richard, he said they already got one. King Arthur, are you sure he's got one? Negan Soldier, oh yes, it's very nice. It's named Lucille. 3 out of 5 coconut hoops and scene.
Well done.
Wow.
Well done.
Well, the response to that, you want to read the responses to what you just read?
I guess.
Well, I'll read Rob Cook. You can just read the response real quick.
All right. Mike Jones said when Morgan and Carol were on horseback, it sounded like someone banging coconuts. It's how you crash. Let's see. Chris, thank you. I know. Chris says you guys should really act the skit out on the Buster ratings. Haha.
Well, we just did. Or Chubb just did. Yes.
Carl Hooker, yes, leave, go away, or we be forced to taunt you a second time. I'm glad someone else noticed it, Mike Jones.
Turn me into a Walker. I got that, sir.
All right, Rob Cook, 4 face-off walkers out of 5. A great portrait of Ezekiel. It is straight out of the comic book. It makes me think of, man, you cut straight out of the comic book. That's what all you think of. Carol's reaction to the whole thing at the beginning was brilliant, but it was good to see that she called bull on his act to bring this episode back from a full-on farce. We needed this episode after last week. There were some good zombie kills, and love that the kingdom are feeding the Saviors tainted pigs. Do they think that they actually are poisoning the Saviors, or is it just a small FU moral victory for them?
I think it's the latter. Because
Me
they
too.
do have to cook the pig, so it wouldn't
Right.
But yeah.
Right.
And we all know, I mean, I'm sure that it's widely known now, everybody has the virus, so, or whatever it is.
Well, Brett Jones said, I bet they believe it's poisoning them. I mean, no one outside of our group got the info from the CDC that they're all infected, so I just figured they believe they're slowly infecting them. It could be wishful thinking.
Possibly. I mean, they could deliberately taint the meat, but then the Saviors will know who to go get revenge on, right? Everyone who ate the pigs and died. Okay, now they're gonna know to go back to the kingdom and take their revenge. So it's, I think it's more, just an FU. David Bew the third, 2.5 medieval kingdoms out of 5. As I said in last week's 5.0 Buster, had this episode been the season opener, the show would have lost some viewers. Well, that's true. I like where they're going with the characters, but I had to watch it twice after falling asleep with the pace. Yeah, it's a tough come down for the first one, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is.
Sarah Ann Howard got this one just done at the wire like a minute ago. 4 out of 5 Walker, Fat, and Piglets. What a nice counterbalance to last week's intensity. 2 of my favorite characters from the show meet one of my favorite from the comics. Ezekiel was a wonderful, magnificent, over the top as expected, and I am excited to see where Morgan and Carol will fit in with the Kingdom storyline. And Shiva, who cannot love a kitty?
Excellent. So if you'd like to leave your very own Buster ratings, we have a great Facebook group again, the Walking Dead TV podcast. Hit the join button, we get you in, and you'll see a little post at the top. It's a pinned post. So if you're on your phone, just hit view pinned post if you're in the group. That's why some of you say you can't see it, but it's there. It's at the top. If you're on the page on your computer, it just shows up at the top. It'll say leave your Buster ratings here. You leave in your comments, and we will make sure to read it on the show each week. So, folks, any final thoughts for the well? The next week's episode is called The Cell. So I see they're playing with the names a little bit again this season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm just looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes out of all this. It's one thing, like, there's a lot of times where you like the A story, but you don't like the B story. I like both. So as they get, kind of bringing stories together, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what they're doing.
I mean, I'm inclined to like the show because I generally like the show. So I feel like now that I'm past the whole cliffhanger episode that I wasn't too excited about to begin with, beyond just getting more of the show again, I'm happy to anticipate things that don't rely on me to solve a cliffhanger and just see what the show wants to do now.
I can't wait to see how Negan takes down Alexandria. At least he plays his first visit. I shouldn't say take down. Pays his first collection visit to Alexandria. That's what I'm waiting for.
It's gonna be rough.
Talking to some of my friends out there, and what do you think about the show, the opener, this and that. They all want to know how Rick is going to re-emerge as a top dog. Like right now, he's going to put to school. And, Negan's going to basically treat him like his bitch for a while. So it's everyone's really interested to see how that's going to play out. At least in my world that I've spoken to, and I am as well. So they teased it on the commercial. I guess the preview for next week's episode. So we are going to see Negan and hopefully a lot of him. And maybe some great.
As long as there's no episodes focused on like losing Glenn's body before they bury him in the field after 3 weeks, I think I'll be fine.
Although we still haven't seen Hilltop in quite a while. Like it's been like 8 episodes or 5.
I thought it was going to be in this episode because they put Xander Berkeley in the credits. So I was like, is he?
Yeah.
Now Xander, he plays Jesus. Is that right?
No, that's the Hilltop leader. That's right.
Oh, the leader. Okay, that's right. The guy from Terminator 2. Okay, that's right.
I think it's because he's like an also starring role. Or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
But I decided he'd be in the episode. It wasn't.
Maybe there was some side scene that got cut. And
I think it's just a recurring character.
Right.
It's all contracts, right? So I'll be on the show, but you got to put me on this kind of title, right? Isn't that
We didn't mention, by the way, they changed up the opening title sequence. They got rid of Glenn and Abraham, obviously, but they added Rosita and Eugene and Tara also cast.
And if you notice with Eugene in that little glimpses, it was the gun factory, wasn't it? The ammo factory.
It looked like it, yeah.
Did you catch it? Okay, so it seems like we may be going back to that story again.
Well, I'll wait for that.
Yeah. So, all right, good stuff. Let's see here. Where can our folks listen to us? We're not doing the Walking Dead TV podcast. Aaron, starting with you.
You can listen to me talk about new movies weekly over and Out Now with Aaron and Abe, the podcast I host with my friend Abe. We just talked about Inferno, which nobody saw because it bombed last weekend. Look forward to us talking about Doctor Strange.
Was it that bad? Seriously, was it front of that bad? Like I was thinking of seeing it, but is it?
If you like the other Dan Brown?
Yes, actually, I did quite a bit.
I do.
If you really like him, then you'll probably like this one.
Okay.
It's not boring. I don't think it's very good, but it's not a boring movie. That's for sure. Regardless,
the bomb's so hard. Maybe give second thoughts. Wait a second, I should really go see this thing. But okay, all right.
Yeah, Out Now with Aaron and Abe. That's the podcast I co-host. I also write various things which you can all find at my personal blog, codeseek.com. You can find me on Twitter at AaronsBS4.
Excellent, Richard.
I'm on this podcast, and I'll guest on others. And but the other one that I'm on mainly with Daryl and Jim, DCTV podcast. We just recorded last night, but Jim's having technical difficulties for those that follow us, so it might be a little late on the episode. But I'm on Twitter at ChubToad01, Instagram, all that stuff, ChubToad01.
He had like an incredible Hulk moment and smashed his laptop. Is that what happened? He
He said he dropped his Yeti mic, which is a pretty big mic.
That is a beefy mic. It's got to weigh at least 5 pounds. I can see
Yeah,
that.
He said it fell right onto the screen. Yeah.
Oh boy. Daryl, how about you?
Yeah, you can go to the Voice123, follow me on Twitter. You can go to DailyNetworkPodcast.com and check me out on a bunch of other podcasts. Most recently on Gotham by Geeks, if you're a fan of Batman and the Batman family, we had the Batman writer buddy of mine, Tom King, come on to answer a bunch of questions from email and Twitter. So in between us ragging on each other and answering questions, it was a fun show. So by the time this is up.
Is Mark Hamill going to be on The Flash? Is that happening? Do you guys talk about that yet? Or the Trickster, the Jokester, whatever they're calling him? Is that
He is going to be on Flash, but I mean, he looks more like the Joker.
Right. Oh, I can't wait. That's like all the nerds going crazy, right? Come on, him in that makeup. Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, if you want to listen to me when I'm talking about The Walking Dead, I am the host of the Auto Chat Show, autochatshow.com, facebook.com/Auto Chat Show. Me and my co-host Teddy review new cars, talk about cars and pop culture. Just have a lot of fun and raucous time talking about cars and reviewing them. Actually, one of our correspondents, Brent, friends of the show, he joins us very often. He's actually at the SEMA show this week, so when he gets back from Las Vegas, we'll be talking to him about that. Also reviewing some new Hyundai, Kia lined up, Mitsubishi lined up, a whole month of new car reviews lined up, so definitely check us out there, autochatshow.com. And also, we are doing the Star Trek podcast, lining up to do the next one, which is based on Star Trek Enterprise, so we have to set a date. Daryl Chubb needs to kind of commit to a date to do that one in our series of Star Trek podcasts.
I'm open anytime. I'm ready for this. This one's the one I've been really excited for.
We've been looking forward to I've actually been rewatching it a lot in preparation of this. Yeah, okay, so
I binge watched the whole thing.
Did you? Okay, I'm on season 4 now. They're on Vulcan. I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. So I'm getting to the end, and so we can set a date for that and talk about our love of that show, pick our top 5 episodes, and all that kind of fun stuff. So until there's no more room in hell and the dead walk the earth, remember a few things here. Jerry, he's a very faithful steward. His words may often leave you pitch kettled, but Shiva is spelled with a V. Chill it up, folks, and deuces. Take care. You are
Nailed it.
Wow, that was beautiful, man.
Nuances in that just great.
Deuces.
And never eat pork chops that come from the kingdom.
I do got taste for bacon though.
Well, you saw that bacon upside down. You had a little.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.